Hi, I'm Cath. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for joining me for my latest video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my 5 favourite dress sewing patterns that I sewed up in 2022. And I do love sewing a handmade dress, as you'll know if you've watched my channel for a while. I think it was one of those things that really got me excited about sewing when I first started sewing, or particularly dressmaking, because I was struggling to find shop bought dresses that fit me well, so I love to be able to sew my own. And it was quite fun looking back over the last year and picking a few of my favourites. So in this video I've got 5 dresses to share with you. They're all quite different in terms of style and in terms of the sort of types of fabric I've chosen, so I'm looking forward to talking about them all. So let's get started on my top 5 dresses of 2022. So let's get started with dress number 1, and my first favourite dress pattern that I sewed up in 2022 is quite a bright one actually, and I made this dress using a pattern I had used before, but for this version I chose a slightly different variation on the pattern, and I really love how it turned out. And the pattern is this one here. It is the Deer and Doe Myosotis dress, which is a really pretty shirt dress pattern. It sews up really nicely and has some lovely details to it. In terms of sizing, it goes from a European 34 up to a European 52, which takes up to a bust of 46 inches, although I've got the paper pattern, which comes in a slightly narrower size range. But yeah, I'll show you the line drawings of this one. It's quite a classic shirt dress, but it's got these lovely darts on the bust and the waist, which gives the bodice a really nice shape. It's got a button down front, which comes up to this V-neck with a band collar. And then you can either make it with a simple short sleeve, or you can add on this little frills to the sleeve. And again with the skirt, you can either make a simple gathered skirt, or you can add on a ruffle at the bottom. So there are a few different variations to it. And it is designed to be a slightly oversized shirt dress. So when I make it, I always size down on my measurements, just to give it a slightly more fitted look. But I'll show you my version that I made in 2022, and I really love, and like I said, it's a little bit bright, as you'll see. Here is my version. So I made this version in a really lovely sort of quilting weight cotton that came from Sew Me Sunshine. I don't think this fabric is still in stock. I got it quite a while ago now, but I'll link the Sew Me Sunshine website down below because they always have some lovely fabrics in. But yeah, this fabric just jumped out at me. I thought it was really fun and I love the colours in it, the sort of forest green with the red and the yellow. And I had a bit of fun with the buttons. I chose these bright red buttons for an extra little pop of colour at the front. So for this version, as ever with the Myosotis, I sized down. I made the European 34, and my measurements for reference are bust 32, waist 26 and hips 36. And I also added on a waist tie just to cinch in a little bit more around the waist. And because it's such a bold, bright print, I decided to make quite a simple shirt dress. So I went for the plain short sleeves, and I didn't add a ruffle. I went for the simple skirt. And I usually do add a ruffle on the skirt for the Myosotis, but I think for this really bold, bright colour, a more simple style works really well. But it's sewed up really nicely. I like how the band collar is inserted. It all comes together really well. And I'll put up a picture of me wearing this dress so you can see what it looks like on. I really love the shape of the Myosotis, and I love how the waist ties I've added do cinch in around the waist. And I think that really shows off the lovely shape created by the darts on the bodice too. And I think it's just a really happy, fun dress to wear, this one, in this lovely colourful print. And I actually wore this one for my Christmas Day dress for 2022. And it was really comfy to wear. I think because it's cotton, it felt nice and breathable and soft against my skin. And I didn't get too hot in it when I was making Christmas dinner. And then I loosened the waist ties a little bit when I actually sat down to eat Christmas dinner. So it worked really well. And it's a really fun one to sew, the Myosotis, like I mentioned. I think it comes together really nicely. I think the step I took the most time on over when I was making this dress was actually at the cutting out stage, just to make sure that all the pieces are really well pattern matched down the side seams and at the front with this check print. So it took quite a lot of time and effort, but I'm glad I did put the effort in because I think it's created a really pretty, striking dress. It's a lot of fun too. So that's my first favourite dress I sewed in 2022, my Myosotis dress by Deer and Doe. So my next favourite dress sewing pattern that I made in 2022 is quite a summery one, and it's another pattern that I had made before but I decided to use again because I love it so much, and I think my 2022 version of this dress might be my favourite one that I've made to date. And the pattern is this one here. It is the Ariana woven dress pattern by Style Arc. It's actually the only stylark pattern I've sewed today, and I don't know why, because I love their patterns, so I really should try some more of them. But it's a really lovely sundress pattern. So it features this bodice with princess seams and this lovely sweetheart neckline and fairly narrow straps. And one feature I really love about this dress is at the back of the bodice there's a panel of shirring, which makes it really, really comfy to wear. It doesn't feel too tight, but you still get that fitted look. Then it's got a gathered midi length skirt with patch pockets, and there are buttons that run all the way down the front of the dress. So it's a really lovely sundress pattern, really comfy to wear, and I've made a few versions of it now, and I always enjoy getting my Ariana woven dresses out for summer. In terms of sizing, the size range goes from a size 4 up to a size 30, which takes you up to a bust of 58 inches, so it's got a really good size range. And there are different ways of ordering this pattern. You can either order it as a multi-size PDF, and then there are 3 different size brackets to choose from. Or you can order it as a one size PDF and you get sent the size you've chosen plus the 2 neighbouring sizes. And I think that ends up just slightly cheaper because you get a slightly less broad size range. So I guess it depends on your measurements and what you want it for as to which of those options you choose. And I just went for the 3 sizes. I went for the 3 smallest sizes. So I got the size 4, the size 6 and the size 8. And I always make my versions in the size 6, and I find it fits me really nicely actually. And it's one of those rare patterns where I don't need to make any adjustments. I often do find on patterns I need to lengthen the bodice because I have got a fairly long torso, but I don't find I need to do that on the Ariana. So yeah, it just sews up really nicely and seems to fit me quite well. So let me show you my Ariana woven dress that I made in 2022. Here it is, and I made it in this really lovely black fabric. It is a Pima cotton lawn fabric that came from Minerva, and it is still in stock there, so I'll link it down below. It's really lovely and soft and silky, and it's really nice and lightweight too, so perfect for a summer dress. And it's opaque as well, so I didn't have to think about lining the skirt. Although actually the pattern calls for a fully lined bodice anyway, so the bodice is all fully lined, which I think is a really nice finish. And with this dress, I just wanted to create a really simple, classic black sundress. I thought it would be a real staple in my wardrobe that I'd hopefully be able to enjoy for years to come. And I think that Ariana has such lovely details that a plain colour really showcased all those details too. This really pretty neckline shape and the princess seams, which give a really lovely shape to the bodice. And it's got buttons all the way down the front, and I went for these plain black matte buttons because I wanted to keep the whole look of the dress as classic and simple as possible. And I'll turn it around and show you the back so you can see this lovely shirring detail, which makes this one really, really comfy to wear. And then I went for the midi length skirt, so you can see the midi length there. And the only change I made on this pattern was I replaced the patch pockets with inseam pockets. I just thought they'd be that little bit more practical, and because I wanted to wear this dress for lots of years to come, I wanted to make sure I made it as practical as possible. One thing I would mention about stylark patterns in general, and what I found on the Ariana dress, is that I understand that generally their instructions are quite brief, and that definitely was the case for the Ariana dress. They don't really hold your hand through the process, they are on the sort of, short front. But I found this really, really handy blog post online, which had been written by a lady called Sewing Like Mad, or that's her sewing moniker. I will link it down below. And I found that blog post really handy. It took you through the whole construction of the bodice on the Ariana dress. It had some really great hints and tips, and I found it really useful for helping me create my first Ariana dress. And I always revisit it when I make my Ariana dresses now too. So yeah, I'll link that down below. Oh, and I'll put up a picture so you can see what the dress looks like on me. I find it a really comfy one to wear, and I think it's a lovely, pretty sundress too. And yeah, I just really love my simple black version that I made in 2022. So my next favourite dress pattern that I sewed in 2022 is a slightly different one, because this dress I actually made by hacking a top pattern, and I really love how the hack turned out. It's definitely a hack I'll be using again, and I love this dress so much I thought it had to be in my top 5. And the pattern I hacked is this one here. It's the Bowery top pattern by French Navy. I really like French Navy patterns, and the Bowery top is one of their patterns I'd had my eye on for a while, and I thought in 2022 I should finally get round to sewing up. So it's a really nice woven top pattern. It's got a button down back, and I do love a button down back feature. It's got drop shoulders with a cuff. You can add an optional patch pocket on the front, and it's got this curved hem. In terms of sizing, the Bowery top currently doesn't have the biggest size range. The current size range is from A to G, which takes you from a 32-inch bust up to a 42-inch bust. But I do know that French Navy are in the process of expanding their size range, and they're planning to re-release their older patterns in a larger size range, as well as their patterns going forward. So hopefully this one will be available in a bigger size range soon. So I originally made up a wearable toile of this top using some sort of scraps of fabric I had left over from other projects. And then I ordered some fabric with a view to making my proper top. But when that fabric arrived, I instantly saw it and thought I'd love to make a dress out of it actually. So I thought I'd have a go of hacking the Bowery top pattern to turn it into a dress. And it was a bit of a squeeze because I only had 1.5 metres of this fabric because I was never planning on making a dress originally. But I'm really glad I was able to squeeze this dress out of the fabric. And here is my Bowery top hack dress. I really love this one. It's just such a perfect day dress, really comfy to wear. And I love this fabric. This is a washed cotton fabric that came from Simply Fabrics. I don't think this fabric is in stock anymore, but I'll link their website down below because they do have lovely fabrics coming through. The washed cotton is not a fabric I think I've sewed with before, but it reminds me slightly of an ECAT cotton because it's lovely and soft and it's got a bit of texture to it too. It's definitely maybe got a bit more weight to it than a cotton lawn, but it still is fairly lightweight, and the fact that it's so soft makes it a little bit drapey too. But yes, it's really lovely fabric, and I just love the colours in it, this sort of rose pink colour and the light blue and the little pops of creamy white. I just thought it was really, really cute. So here is my Bowery hack dress. I hacked the Bowery top basically by cropping it off and straightening off the hem, just maybe slightly above my natural waist, and then adding on a gathered skirt. So it's still got the lovely cuffs of the Bowery top, and it's still got the button down back. And I really love choosing the buttons on this one. I actually only had 4 of these blue buttons, and I was thinking, oh no, I love the blue against the fabric, but then I found this random pink button that's the same size as the blue buttons in my sort of little pot of buttons, and I thought that was a really cute little feature to add that little pink button at the top. You can't often see it when I'm wearing this one because I often wear my hair down, but I know it's there and I love that little extra detail. And then I even managed to squeeze out pockets. So I've got inseam pockets added on because I wanted this dress to be nice and practical because it is like a day dress I'd wear for everyday use. So it's got pockets in there too. And it's sewed up really nicely. I love French Navy patterns. I think the instructions are really good and the finish is always really nice. The neckline is finished with bias binding, so you can see that there. And the whole way the button placket is sewn, it just ends up really, really neat. So I'm really happy with this dress. I think because the top doesn't have sleeve pieces, it made it a little bit easier to squeeze into 1.5 metres because you just have to cut the sort of front bodice piece on the fold and the 2 back pieces, and then the actual cuffs don't take too much fabric, so those pattern pieces are quite easy to squeeze in. So it was a bit of a squeeze, particularly with pattern matching, so as you can see I've tried to pattern match all the way down with the checks, but I really love how this one's turned out. In terms of sizing, I made the smallest size, the size A of the pattern, which is for bust 32 inches, which is me. And because I was kind of cropping this one off a little bit above my natural waist and adding a gathered skirt, the waist and hip measurements I don't think were so critical. And it is fairly wide neckline, so I don't really need to use the buttons, although they are proper buttons, you can undo them. But yeah, you could just slip this one on over your head. So I'll put a picture up of me wearing it. It's a really nice comfy dress to wear. I think it's great for summer where I can just wear it with a pair of sandals, but it's also lovely for layering up in winter as well with like a cosy top underneath and a nice big cardigan. So yeah, I love this dress. I'm really glad I hacked the pattern and was able to squeeze a dress out of this lovely fabric. So I'll move on now to my next favourite dress pattern that I sewed in 2022. This is dress number 4 and it's quite a wintry one. And I sewed it up using this lovely pattern here, which is the Davenport dress pattern by Friday Pattern Co. It's a really cute, ruffly little dress pattern, and it's a really fun sew too. I always find Friday Pattern Co patterns are a lot of fun to sew. And this one has a really good size range too. It's very size inclusive. It goes from an extra small to a 7X in sizing, which takes you from a bust of 32 inches up to a bust of 60 inches. But I'll show you the line drawing so you can see all the details, this one. So it is quite a loose fit dress that you can pull over your head, but then you gather it in at the waist. It's cinched in by this drawstring. And it's got quite a blousey bodice. And at the neckline, there's a bit of elastic at the front, which kind of gives this pretty sort of gathered effect to the front of the bodice. It's also got this yoke that's quite unusual. It's got a sort of slight yoke at the front and then a yoke at the back and more gathering at the back. And there's little optional little sort of sleeve flutters on the shoulder. The sleeves are quite voluminous and it's got a ruffle on the cuff. And then the skirt is a gathered skirt with another ruffle at the bottom, and there are patch pockets included, these sort of slash pockets at the side. So loads of details in this one, loads of ruffles and gathers. And I think it's a really pretty pattern and quite comfy to wear as well, because you can kind of pull it as tight or as how loose as you want really around the waist, so it's not too restrictive. And it is, yeah, a really pretty one. And my version I made in 2022, I really love, particularly because of the fabric. So this is my Davenport dress I made. And the fabric is a viscose fabric, so you can see it's got a lovely lot of movement and drape to it, which I think works really well for the Davenport dress pattern. And this fabric I actually got in a destash. I'd seen it in a few fabric shops a while ago, and then it sold out of everywhere, and I kind of wished I'd got some, but then 2 meters popped up on a destash account, so I sort of grabbed the chance to get it, and I turned it into my Davenport dress, and I love how it's turned out. So the fabric has this really dark navy base, which I think is a really pretty colour. And there's interesting prints on. It's a bit random. It's got tigers and flowers, but I just love the colours. I love this sort of gold and the cobalt and how they pop against the navy, and there's a bit of pink in there too, as you can see. I just thought it was a lovely wintry fabric, so I had to turn it into a pretty wintry dress, and I thought the Davenport dress would be lovely for that. So yeah, this is my version. When I make the Davenport dress, I make the size extra small. That is my size bust. I think my waist would put me at a size small, but actually there's loads of room in this dress, so I've always been absolutely fine going for the extra small. And I think if I'd gone for any larger, it would just feel like it was too much fabric and was wearing me a little bit. So yeah, I'm glad I've gone for the extra small. I did make a few adjustments to this pattern for me, and the first one, as you can see, is I made the sleeves a lot more narrow. They're much more of a slim fit now. Just I thought it would be a bit too much having the voluminous sleeves on me, particularly with all the ruffles. I didn't want to get lost in the dress. And I added on a simple elasticated cuff rather than the ruffle on the sleeve. I do quite like a simple elasticated cuff, but I was also restricted on fabric. So I did everything I could to be able to squeeze this dress out of 2 meters, because I think for the extra small, it says you need 2.5 meters of fabric. That was the width I had. And when you look at the cutting out layouts for this pattern, there's not a lot of wiggle room. There isn't a lot of blank space there to play with. So I really had to be quite careful when cutting out to make sure I had enough. And then I also adjusted it slightly by making the bottom ruffles here quite a bit shorter. I think I might have chopped off at least 2 inches, because I do find when I made this dress the first time, it came up a bit longer than I was expecting, definitely below the knee, and I wanted it a little bit shorter. So I did that too, and that also helped on being able to kind of make sure I squeeze this dress out of a limited amount of fabric. As you can see inside, for the facing on the back yoke and also the front yoke bits on the shoulders here, I used just a navy blue viscose fabric, really just purely because I didn't have enough fabric, and that worked really well. And also the pocket facings, I think I used navy fabric on those too. You can see on the inside there. So basically on all the pieces I could add that were not going to be visible, I cut out this navy, and I was just able to squeeze the whole dress out of the main fabric. And I even had just enough to add these little flutter shoulder details, which I think are really pretty. I think I might have had to cut them the other way around on the sort of cross grain rather than the grain, or I can't remember how you're supposed to cut them. I had to cut them the other way, but actually they turned out fine like this, and I think the pattern is so busy you wouldn't really know which way around it was cut. So yeah, anyway, here is my dress. It's got the little tie to cinch it in at the waist. It's just a really nice comfy one to wear, but also quite pretty and feminine too. I'll put a picture up so you can see what it looks like on. See, I really love this dress. I think the Davenport dress is such a pretty pattern, and I was so happy that I was just able to squeeze it out of this really lovely fabric. I always enjoy wearing this one in cooler weather because I think it's definitely a very wintry sort of dress. So that brings me on to my 5th favourite dress that I sewed in 2022, and this one is actually another pattern hack. It's another dress I made by hacking a top pattern, and this top pattern is one I've hacked a few times. I think it's a really fun one to play around with, and I love my 2022 version that I made. I thought it had to be in my top 5. And the pattern I used is this one here. It is the Ogden cami pattern by True Bias. It's a really nice woven cami top pattern with quite a simple silhouette to it, so perfect for hacking. Yeah, it's got quite a straight fit, so you can just pull it on over your head. It's got this deep V at the front and the back, and these spaghetti straps. And it's got a really good size range too. I've got the size US 0 to 18 size band, but there's also a 14 to 30 size band too, which has a couple of differences. I think the straps are slightly wider, and there's also a bust dart added in for that one. And on the inside it's finished with a little facing, which is a really nice neat little finish inside this cami. So I'll show you my 2022 version dress that I hacked in the Ogden cami. And here it is. I decided to hack the Ogden cami to turn it into a really cute midi length sundress, and it's got a little ruffle at the bottom. Well, that's quite hard to see in this leopard print fabric. So for this dress, I used this lovely leopard print viscose fabric that I got from Selfmade. I don't think it's in stock anymore, but I'll link the website down below. I saw this fabric when I was browsing on Selfmade's website because they make lovely viscose fabric, really nice quality. And I just saw it and thought I'd love to make a sundress out of this. I thought it would be really, really fun. So for my Ogden cami hack, I basically cropped off the Ogden cami just above my waistline. I wanted it just above my waist. And instead of making a facing for the inside of the bodice, I basically cut 2 front pieces and 2 back pieces and made the bodice fully lined. And then I sort of slip stitched it along after I'd attached on the skirt. And then I added on this gathered skirt in 2 tiers. There's another tier at the bottom here. And I also added on waist ties at the sides, just little skinny little waist ties that I sewed into the sides of the cami bodice just to cinch it in a little bit and give it a little bit of shape. And the only other adjustment I think I made is just to bring up the V at the back slightly, just for a little bit more bra strap coverage back there. And I really love how it turned out. It was so much fun hacking it. I spent a bit of time considering how long to make each tier and how long to make the dress. It was a lot of fun to figure it all out. And I'll put a picture up so you can see what it looks like on. It's a really comfy one to wear, and this fabric is lovely and drapey and swishy, so it's perfect for summer. But actually I really like to wear it in sort of transitional weather too, when it's getting a bit chillier, by layering it over a black t-shirt or a black long sleeve top. I think it worked really well like that too, with some black boots and that sort of thing. So it's a dress I think I could wear through the year, but I did originally design it as a summer dress, and I just love how it's turned out, and it was so much fun hacking it. And I've actually written a couple of blog posts about hacking the Ogden cami, so I'll link them down below in case you fancy checking them out. I think it's such a great pattern to hack. Oh, and in terms of sizing, I went for a size 0 on the bodice based on my bust. The waist size wasn't so critical because I was cropping it off a little bit above the waist anyway. And that's quite a nice fit on me, and there's still just enough room underneath to be able to fit kind of like a lightweight top if I did want to layer it up. So yeah, that is my 5th favourite dress I made, this lovely Ogden cami hack to turn into this cute little midi dress with a ruffle at the bottom. So those are my 5 favourite dress patterns that I sewed in 2022. But after I'd picked my favourites and compiled the list, I realised they're all woven dress patterns. And I do love a woven dress pattern, but I love a jersey dress pattern too. And I've got one particular favourite from 2022 that I made. It's a jersey dress, so I thought it deserved a place on the list as well. So I thought I'd sneak this one in as number 6 because it's one I've worn loads and I really love, so I thought it should be on there. And this is a dress I made using this pattern here, which is the Paper Cut Patterns Solar Sweater and Tee pattern. It's one of my favourite jersey patterns. I've used this one a lot. I'll show you the line drawings. It's quite a boxy, relaxed fit t-shirt and sweater pattern with a dropped shoulder. So you can make it as a sweater with the long sleeves and cuffs and bottom band, or as a simple t-shirt. And it's got this lovely optional little ruffle that you can add into the seam here on the sleeve, which is a really pretty feature. And I've made loads of variations of this pattern, both with and without the ruffle. And what I wanted to make for this summer was a really relaxed, comfy jersey dress that I could just pull on at the beach over my bikini, or just wear as a really nice relaxed dress around the house on a hot day or something like that. So I decided to adapt this pattern slightly, basically by turning the t-shirt into a sort of t-shirt dress. And it was a lot of fun to do. So I used the Solar Tee as my sort of pattern for the t-shirt, and then I borrowed the bottom from the Tilly and the Buttons Stevie tunic because it had a nice fit around the hips for me and a nice length to it. So I kind of merged those 2 patterns together to create my sort of summery t-shirt dress, and here it is. And I really love it. I made it in this really pretty floral cotton jersey that came from Eliza Mack Fabrics. I'm not sure if this one's in stock still. If it is, I'll link it down below, otherwise I'll just link her website. It's a really lovely soft cotton jersey, and it's got this pretty dark grey base with these lovely flowers on it in sort of white and pink colours. And I thought I'd make a really cute t-shirt dress, so here it is. It's quite a boxy, loose fit t-shirt dress. I made it in size 2 of the Solar Tee, which I think is pretty much my bust size, but it does come up oversized. And it was just a really simple, quick make, and I got loads of wear out of this one over summer. I'll put up a picture so you can see what it looked like on. As I said, it's a really simple make, but one I've got loads of wear out of, and I'll definitely be wearing a lot in the future too. I think I'd like to make another version in a different type of jersey fabric, just because it's just a really useful garment. So yeah, I thought I had to make it on my top list too. So those are my 5 top dress patterns that I sewed in 2022, with an extra sneaky number 6 added in there too. There were a couple of other dresses that I sewed in 2022 that I thought also deserved honourable mention because I really loved them as well. One of them was my dress that I made using the French Navy 4-size dress expansion pack, which was released in 2022. That was a really fun make, and I'll pop a picture up here so you can see what that dress looks like. Another one I really enjoyed making and I really love as well is my Sarast dress, which I made using the Sarast dress pattern, which comes from the Named Clothing Breaking the Pattern book. It was my first pattern I tried from that book this year. I finally got around to using that book, having had it for a very long time, and I really love that dress as well. I'll pop that picture up of that one too. There are 2 more dresses I really enjoyed sewing and wearing in 2022, but I didn't include them on my top 5 list because I've talked about them in quite a lot of detail in a recent video, which is a review I did of 9 patterns I sewed in 2022. I'll link that video up above in case you fancy hearing more about those 2, but I love those dresses as well. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really enjoyed taking a look back over 2022 and picking out some of my favourite dresses I made, and I hope you've enjoyed hearing about them. And if you enjoyed this video, then please do give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, thank you very much for dropping by. Please do subscribe and press the bell icon too, which means you'll then be notified when I bring future videos out, which are generally full of sewing content. I love talking about sewing and dressmaking. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you again for another video soon. Bye!